On today's episode of DNVR Rams Live, we are setting the scene for a Week 1 trip to Texas. We're talking keys to the matchup, names you should know. We're giving out Mountain West Power Rankings, Week 1 picks, and more. Good morning, y'all. Welcome into the Toyota Lounge, driven by your Front Range Toyota stores. Toyota, the official vehicle of DNVR.
Bang.
I'm Justin Michael. Andre, the man, the myth, the legend, Simone is here. We're talking Week 1. Football is back. It's no more projection. It's no more hypothetical.
Nope.
It's here. It's now.
We are here.
How you doing, my friend?
Doing great. I'm hyped. Good Thursday slate. Gonna be an amazing Saturday slate. And even Sunday we got a big game. I'm glad to do the show back in season. Just hyped, man. I'm just hyped.
I'm hyped too. I'm also hyped this weekend. We've got a watch party going on at the DNVR bar for CSU's game at Texas, kicking off at 1:30. Presented by our friends over at Coors Light. You can RSVP online at our website. Enter to win a free Yeti cooler, courtesy of our friends over at Coors. Awesome opportunity. I'd love to see you there. Come on through. Best watch party, best sports bar in town. We've got a fun show lined up for you. We're talking Mountain West Power Rankings, first of the fall with both of us here. Kind of did a preseason one a while back, but that was different. Didn't count. We got Week 1 picks. We're going to get into the names to know on the Texas side. We're talking about everything you guys need to know for this big-time matchup with the Rams at the Longhorns. If you missed it, I did post on Twitter this morning. We got an update for the NCAA college football video game. The Rams now an 80 overall. More importantly, Ag Day uniforms are in the game. They look sharp. You guys can stop tweeting at me asking when they're going to be in there. They are in there. Of course, State Pride not yet in, and predictably so, the reaction has been, well, what about State Pride? I can promise you they will be in at some point. I don't know why they weren't in this update patch, but you can use Ag Day. They look sharp. You can go see those photos online if you are wondering. We're going to play a video here of Jay Norvell kind of setting the scene for this game at Texas. It's a unique opportunity for the program on multiple levels. The Longhorns are legit national title contenders, but also in the broader sense, Dre, playing in Texas, it means a lot to the players from Texas. There's a lot of them on the roster. It means something to the coaches, from the state of Texas. And obviously from a recruiting standpoint, getting that opportunity to play in Texas, it's a big win for CSU, even though it's obviously a really, really tough challenge.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's also, this is a tier of team, this Texas, coming off a playoff run, returning its quarterback, sniping guys and getting transfers from Alabama and stuff like that. That is a little more special because you're going into their house when they're really up. And it's similar to some of those Bama games we've had in the last 10 years. That adds a little spice to it. And it's a good, while obviously overwhelming underdogs, it's a good little barometer of can you be frisky for a couple quarters like they were in some of those Bama games, like a Wyoming was against Texas last year, to kind of still have some good vibes going into Week 2 when everything becomes a little more manageable.
Yeah, I think you can find a lot of confidence if you play well in Austin. I've talked a lot in the past about how going out there and hanging with the number 1 team in the country twice, both times they went to Tuscaloosa, really gave that team a spark, and you could see it with the 5-6 weeks after it. Obviously, if that were to happen for CSU, that would be great because we've talked about the importance of getting off to a hot start this year if you want to really make some noise on a national level. Obviously, you'll still have a chance to compete within your own conference, kind of regardless of what happens these first 5 weeks. But if you want it to be a special season, if you want this to be a year to remember like a 2014, like a 2002, you got to set the tone immediately. And this is a great barometer to see kind of where we're at. We're going to play this interview with Jay Norvell from yesterday. It's him meeting with me Kevin Lytle and Mike Brohard of CSU Rams. Just kind of talks about some of the stuff we've talked about, sets the scene for this matchup. Also talks about special teams a little bit. One of the big things that's going to be something we have to keep an eye on this weekend, Jordan Noyes, the starting kicker, has kind of been in a boot for most of fall. Was not in a boot yesterday, which was encouraging, but I have actually yet to see him kick in camp. Sounds like they expect to have him on Saturday, but that is a little bit of a wrinkle, and we're going to have to keep our eyes on that situation. But here's Jay Norvell meeting with the media yesterday post-practice.
Your kicking situation?
Yeah.
How are we sitting with that right now?
Oh, we're in great shape. No, we're in good shape. I mean, we'll see till Saturday. We've had, some guys that have been a little bit nicked up and not got a lot of chances to kick, but I think we'll have everybody available Saturday, so that's an important part of the game. Field position is going to be really important. So we got to do a good job on all of our teams, kicking the football, covering kicks. Not having penalties on special teams is huge. So, but we should have everybody available Saturday.
Is that what you look for most in an opener, is just how clean your team can be and how many things you can do that don't hurt you in a negative way?
Yeah, typically in most opening games, it's the first game, and you get some first game jitters and foolish penalties, kicking game penalties. We can't afford that in this game. We've worked really hard to accelerate this preseason, be really sharp, and when you play at an opponent like Texas, it gets your attention early, and so it's not a normal opener. It's an important game. We got to play clean, and we can't afford to give away plays, or we can't afford to trade plays. We can't, get a turnover and then we turn it over, or give a play on special teams and then we get a play on special teams. We can't afford to play that way. We got to be opportunistic. We got to take advantage of our opportunities, and we got to keep their home run hitters from getting a lot of at bats.
Have you felt some of that, kind of extra juice, if we will, from the guys just being not your typical opener, maybe?
Yeah, I think everybody understands the urgency that we're playing the University of Texas, and it's a big game for us. It's a big opportunity for our program, and so everybody's taken that all summer long in their study of this game and preparation for this game. We got a lot of Texas kids here, and it's a dream for every Texas kid and every Texas coach to play at Texas. And so, and there's a lot of people that never get that opportunity. There's a lot of people playing football in Texas and coaching football in the state of Texas that never get to play at Texas. So it's a special opportunity, and I've experienced it several times in my career, and it reminds you how important it is for people that haven't had a chance to do it.
I heard you talking to the guys yesterday about basically going out and forcing them to respect, your name, respect your helmet. You've been on probably both sides of this, being the big school where the small school comes in and the smaller school going into it. At times, do you think teams can get beat just essentially from having the wrong mindset going in, like they getting caught up in all the crowd and that?
It's, of course, we're playing the University of Texas, but we're playing a team that runs split zone and RPOs and play action passes. That's what we have to defend. We're not, Earl Campbell's not going to play, and so we don't have to play their history. Darryl Royal's not on the sideline. I'm not worried about coaching against him. So it's a game, and when we need to be mature as a team and a program and go in and play a team like Texas and go play the game. And so that's all we're asking our guys to do. We really haven't made a big deal about them or their legacy and all that. It's an important game. It's a good opponent. They're well coached. It's a great atmosphere, and we need to go have fun, play the game.
You mentioned the Texas guys on the roster. You got three of them specifically in the wide receiver room that are still kind of new guys with Dylan, Armani, Donovan. How important are those guys going to be, not just this week, but for you guys the whole season, kind of helping Torrey out and kind of making sure teams respect more than just him?
Yeah, we got to have playmakers all over the field so people can't zero in on Torrey. And, we've been really mindful of that. I think Armani's got an opportunity to have a great year. He's a big, talented receiver with speed. I think Donovan Holly's a great addition. He's a pro. I mean, as far as handling his business and his maturity, it's a huge upgrade for us. I'm really excited about Jamari Person. He's had a great camp. Goody's had a great camp. We got a number of players that are capable of making big plays, and so I think Braden has a lot of confidence in our receiver room. And we got to have great complements, whether it's our running backs, our tight ends, our wide receivers. We got to be able to spread the ball around and be productive.
Not Texas related, but Dallin made the cut yesterday.
That's
kind
so
of fun
awesome.
to see that.
That's so awesome. And I haven't even had a chance to look at the cuts, and so I appreciate you telling me that. And I knew he was having a really good camp, and what a great kid, and I'm really happy of him and proud of him. He made some good decisions in this process, and going to the Saints was one of them. That was a great decision that he made.
Cool. Thanks,
Jay.
Jay. Appreciate it.
Big shout out to Jay Norvell for always being available, giving us great availability throughout the season. Was able to attend practice on Tuesday and Wednesday. We had a presser on Monday. I'm going to do my best to get you guys as much video from throughout the season. Make sure you're following everything on the DNVR Sports YouTube. We got the interview with running backs coach Jeremy Moses, as well as Wisconsin transfer defensive end Gabe Kershke up there. That Norvell video is also on if you would like to rewatch it or go back and re-listen to some of the stuff that he said. Dre and I are about to get into this Texas matchup. We're going to give out some of the players that you should know. We're going to give the keys to the game. But I like what Norvell said there about it just being a big opportunity and not getting too focused on the brand. I think at times when you are a smaller school going into a really unique setting like this, I mean, you're not going to play in front of 100,000 people that often. This type of team, this type of expectations, you can kind of psych yourself out and really get overworked and beat yourself essentially before you ever step on the field.
Yeah, you can overthink it. And I mean, I think the key really is just make it a game, play with house money, just go out, be loose, have fun. I think we've seen it before, like starting the season against Michigan under Norvell's tenure, and Clay not looking great and things just struggling to kind of get going. You just want to kind of be relaxed, get in a rhythm, execute your scheme, know what to expect, and go from there.
That's a perfect way to segue into our keys to the game. We're going to talk about that. I think they got to strike first and strike back throughout this game. Real quick, though, I do want to shout out our friends over at Toyota. Guys, trucks have always been a part of Toyota's DNA. For generations, Toyota has built durable legends destined for greatness, and they're perfect for Colorado. Whether you're conquering off-road trails or hauling the weight of the world, there's a Toyota truck that's just right for you. They've got the 2024 Tacoma, the return of the iconic 2024 Land Cruiser. Toyota offers 17 models with available all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, like the Epic 4Runner. They also offer more low and zero-emission vehicles combined than any other automaker, to give customers numerous choices to reduce their carbon footprint. There are 16 different hybrid vehicles you can choose from. They've got the Tundra iForce Max hybrid truck. Not to be outdone, though, Toyota SUVs take command on the road and on the trail, so you can explore the road less traveled without having to sacrifice those smooth city rides in SUVs like the RAV4 and the Grand Highlander. That's what's awesome about these vehicles. Not only are they fuel efficient, not only is it a really smooth commute when you're in city, but if you want to hit the Western Slope, if you want to hit the ski slopes, you've got that opportunity. Toyota is a proud partner of CSU Athletics and the official vehicle of DNVR. I also want to talk to you guys about UC Health and their initiative Ready, Set, CO. It's a statewide challenge to help everyone be a little healthier. One pillar of this year's challenge is nutrition, and UC Health is here to set the tone and get you thinking about choices, Dre. Here's the big misconception with kind of living a healthier lifestyle.
Oh, okay.
A lot of times people get discouraged because they think it needs to be an all or nothing ordeal. I can never eat pizza again. I can't have Diet Dr. Pepper. I can't do any of that.
Shout out to those guys.
That's not what it's about. It's about making small choices. It's about living life with moderation and still allowing yourself to, have those treats, but also occasionally doing the little things. Go for that morning walk when you've got an extra 15 minutes instead of watching some YouTube videos. Maybe you order a side salad instead of chili cheese fries. Although that's a tough one. I'm not gonna lie. That's a tough trade-off. But that's what it's about. You gotta do little small sacrifices every now and then so that you can live a life that's healthy and you can be active and all those great things.
Take care of number one, man. Live extraordinary. That's UC Health's challenge, and we're here. We're taking it on.
If you want to join UC Health's Ready, Set, CO Challenge, click the link in the show notes or go to www.uchealth.org/ReadySetCO. What a great initiative, especially in fall, man. It's easy once I get in football mode to start eating badly, being lazy. It's long days, longer nights.
Yeah, you're not getting good sleep. I mean, it all catches up, Jay Mike.
Well, that's why I'm thankful for UC Health. I've got them in the back of my mind now.
There you go. Good.
Let's preview this matchup with Texas. Let's give the people who they need to know, some of our keys to the game, and then at the end of the show, we'll set the scene for a big week one for the entire Mountain West.
Damn straight.
The first player you need to know, and I think it's pretty obvious with most teams, the quarterback, Quinn Ewers, threw for about 3,500 yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions in 2023. Quinn Ewers is a guy you have watched a lot over the years from a draft perspective.
Yeah, who hasn't?
What are your thoughts on Quinn Ewers going into this season? And essentially, why should Ram fans fear him? What are some ways that CSU could maybe set themselves up for success against a QB like him?
Yeah, fairly accomplished quarterback, can be quite inconsistent, but I mean, he slings the long ball better than anyone in college football right now, I think. Certainly with Caleb Williams leaving, he'd be your leader in the clubhouse if you were just to rank the best deep throwers in the game. And he just has that ability to kind of turn a game on its head, stand tough in the pocket, and make just drop dimes. Easy arm strength. Now, he can be inconsistent and inaccurate in the middle of the field, in those middle areas, in the short to intermediate. His feel for pressure can be a little shaky at times, right? So that there are ways to get to him. He's not like the biggest or most athletic guy. But the combination of that receiving core, that scheme, that offensive line, and the fact that, you don't need to hit a home run every at bat. You hit a home run.
Well, and they'll really test you, with the dink and dunk stuff. It's going to be a lot of quick screens, a lot of slants. Then all of a sudden they open it up over the top.
Well, that's why you have the running back here, because Ewers and that O-line and that receiving core against any opponent, Colorado State included, Ewers is going to need that running game to lead on. He's not a guy you want dropping back 40 times a game.
It's a good point.
It's going to open you up for disaster. But 20, 25, and he nails those three throws,
And that's what he's done in some of those big games for them.
1,000%.
When you look at their matchups against Bama, or even I thought he played really well against Washington.
Yeah.
He's hit some big-time throws and big-time moments.
Yes.
You mentioned the receiving core, so I'll just do him real quick. Isaiah Bond came over from Alabama. He's going to essentially assume that Xavier Worthy role of burn you over the top. Texas does have a couple of good receivers, but he's the guy that scares me the most. 48 catches for 668 yards, 4 touchdowns last year.
Yeah.
He's got next-level speed.
You got to watch how he lines up on every single play. Because he is a difference maker. He's a guy who's going to give you that vertical spacing, even if Ewers doesn't throw him the ball. So that's going to open up other stuff.
It's like Tyreek Hill. You always have to account for where he's at.
It's like a great 3-point shooter. Even if they're not shooting it, you still need to account for it.
You change the geometry.
Yeah,
you just change the spacing completely.
But Bond flashed that Bama for his ability kind of as more of a direct runner and stuff like that. So you got to watch him.
That's a good point. You got to watch out.
Guys,
I could see him getting involved in some end around type stuff, reverses. I mean,
you have to
obviously
read
crossers and quick screens, slants, or all that fun stuff.
Yeah,
underneath.
and you wonder how will they go about that? Is that more the linebacking core's job? Is that going to be those veteran safeties you have?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, it's going to put a lot of pressure on your nickel, obviously, in that 4-2-5. I will say one of the things, despite not being the biggest guy in the world, Dom Morris, who will be starting at nickel, and then you'll see Aiden Hector out there quite a bit as well. He's a guy that's not afraid to get up there near the line of scrimmage, to play in the box, to be scrappy, and they're going to have to do that. They have to, as best as they can, take away some of that quick underneath stuff, because if Texas can run the ball, if Jaden Blue can, run for 6.1 yards a carry the way he did in 2023, albeit as like a change of pace type back, that's going to put this defense in a really tough spot, especially with, opening up play action and the speed they have and all that type of stuff. I think if you can have success taking away some of that quick stuff in the RPO game and then, make them question whether they want to continue to run the football, I think that's a big recipe for success for CSU on the defensive side.
Yeah, no doubt. And you also hope you're not playing with a deficit for long periods of time. That's another factor that's going to allow Texas just a variety of play calls that you wouldn't have if it's an even game or you're coming from behind.
That's a great point. And that's essentially what I meant in our notes here. I have our keys to the game. I put, you need to punch first and punch back. If it's a Washington State situation, you're down 21-0 in the first quarter, that puts you in a brutal spot. Yep. Like if you can put a little bit of doubt in their mind, maybe you score a couple of touchdowns in that first half, hit some explosive plays, just get them on their heels a little bit. I think that completely changes things versus, like we've seen in these big games the last couple of years where it's 28-0, 5 minutes into the second quarter, and now they're just pinning their ears back and going after your QB.
Yeah, no, for sure. You hope to create explosives and kind of limit explosives. I think the goal is to stay frisky and stay in the game for a couple quarters here. I think also, some ball control, some clock control could go a long way if they're able to establish the run. Just move the chain some, Don't be putting your defense in a situation where they're on the field for like 70% of the first 15 plays or 20 plays or so, you got to have some success at the line of scrimmage. You got to be able to run the football. You got to be able to protect the quarterback. And then the other side, you got to be able to generate some pressure and stop the run. And inherently, that's going to help you do some of that ball control stuff. In theory, that's going to, help you potentially limit some of the turnover problems that you had a year ago. Like all of this stuff works together. And it's a kitchen sink game, right? But you can't just take shots every single down and distance. Well, and it's one of those, I think, where the game is at a couple minutes into the second kind of determines if it really is a kitchen sink game, because if you do go down big early, like at some point you don't want to show too much in a game that you don't really have a chance of coming back in. That said, if you're in a position like Wyoming was last year and you've got a chance to go out and make history, then like we're going to do what we got to do to try and steal this one. Like I don't think they're going in just being like, we just want to compete. They do want to win, but I also do think there's just there's some pragmatism and some realism that comes into play as well in a situation like this week one. But you got to win the little things, right? Like you can't beat yourself with penalties. Jay talked about that, like on special teams and penalties and just dumb things. Winning on special teams, I think, would be one of the keys of the game.
Yeah, if you can increase your margin, like you've got a really dynamic returner, you have a punter who's done a good job of limiting returns, and assuming that Noyes is able to go, you got a kicker that's pretty dang good for the collegiate level.
Yeah, and then, winning the little things to me is creating some sort of a rhythm, being able to keep the defense off the field, being able to, get a couple first downs, so when you take your shot, you're at the 50-yard line. You can't take your shots from your own 30,
It's a good point.
And just being able to stay in the game, gain some momentum, gain some confidence, and see what you can bring to the table from there.
Couple more names Ram fans should keep an eye on, just flipping things over to the defensive side for Texas. Ethan Burke, their defensive end's a stud. He had 41 total tackles last year, 9 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks.
Yeah, I love him. I think he's underrated.
I think so too. I think he's a guy that's really going to pop in the draft conversation this year.
Yeah.
Obviously, Texas loses that dynamic duo of Sweat and Byron Murphy in the interior. I do wonder, if that ends up playing a factor, maybe the Rams are able to establish some things between the tackles a little bit better without 100%. Those big maulers out there.
Look, man, I think this is a huge, huge test for that offensive line, which I thought was undoubtedly one of the bright spots of last season, which I think is the thing that has me feeling best about the trajectory of the Norvell era, is the improvements I saw at quarterback and offensive line last year. This is a huge test, man. You show you've taken even another step from last year. That's massive.
Well, and that was a big key for CSU in those games against Bama. They hung in the trenches. You think back to, that was kind of the breakout Shaq Barrett game as an edge rusher, but also on top of that, like offensively, you moved the ball on them. You ran the ball. Your O-line hung, and a lot of those guys, Rich Berg and Sam Brilo, and even like Sam Carlson and some of those guys in the 2017 game, like they all had at least a cup of coffee in the league, if not a sustained career. Like Rich Berg got a nice little career there, got a second contract, got
Phenomenal
paid.
career. Are you kidding me?
So I just think this is a really big game from establishing an identity, from proving that you are not last year's Rams, or obviously not the year before either. But I'm with you. I think if you can do a couple of those small things, it goes a major way, and just establishing some confidence and kind of getting in a rhythm that you can build off of going into UNC, and then obviously the game of the year with CU coming to Fort Collins in week 3.
Yeah, 100%. And you have Anthony Hill here as another sophomore linebacker to watch on this defense.
He was the second leading tackler from a year ago on that Texas squad. They do return 4 of their 5 leading tacklers. 67 total last year, 8 tackles for loss, 5 sacks. They've got a lot of guys that when they get up, they can pin their ears back and get after you. So kind of going back to what Dre and I were talking about before, the more you can hang around, the more you can limit opportunities where you're in 3rd and long and they get to really come after you. I just think that's going to be a major factor, and something that frankly the Rams were not able to do in either of the games against Washington State or Michigan. Being able to move the ball with some consistency, not having some of the self-inflicted wounds we saw hold them back in the non-conference slate each of the last couple of years, that would be a major sign to me that this program is capable of going on and maybe doing some of the special things that could be possible with the favorable schedule.
For sure. And I think this cornerback room in Texas could be exploited a little bit. Jatavion Cole, San Jose State transfer, right? You know him. They've got a Wake.
That surprised me.
What?
That one surprised me that he's like that high on their depth chart. Yeah.
I mean, the Gavin Harris is the backup. He's a Wake Forest transfer. Like, they've got some guys opposite the true sophomore Muhammad, who has some good pedigree, that can be exploited. Andrew Makuba, the safety from Clemson's a nice transfer. But like, is he the most dynamic in coverage? Let's see. Let's test him out a little bit. I think it's a big opportunity for the guys playing opposite Torrey Horton.
Big opportunity. Armani Winfield, Donovan Ollie, Dylan Goffney, all Texas guys too. So they're going to be amped. BFN, your quarterback's from Texas. A couple of your O-linemen are from Texas. Like they're going to be jazzed up to play this game. John Harris wants to know in the Toyota chat the average size difference when it comes to the linemen.
I could have read that question.
6'5", 305 is CSU's average starting offensive line. I don't have on me Texas's. They didn't release a 2 deep publicly. I don't know if that's gamesmanship or if they just don't do it. But honestly, like, it shouldn't be overwhelming in a way that it was like when CSU went to Michigan. They're definitely going to have, when you look at their nose tackles and stuff like that, they're clearly going to have a size advantage. Their offensive tackles are going to be bigger. But when you look at CSU, and especially when you see them in person, and this is a comment that I got from Mike Sanford, it's a comment I got from Ryan Green when he was up there in person. When you see these guys on the field, they look like an NFL offensive line from a size standpoint. So I don't think it's going to be super overwhelming. I do wonder if Texas's speed is more the difference. The Rams have some pretty good speed at the skill positions too, but the amount of guys they have on the roster that can run a 4-4 at various positions, it overwhelms you.
Well, and I think defensively especially, we just talked about Texas has some corners that can be exploitable. I'm sure that's what they're saying in Austin as they're
very
preparing
much
for
so.
this
And
game.
the Rams got to be better in man coverage than they were a year ago. If they have the same type of lapses that they had, like in Logan, for instance, even against Wyoming, there could be a long day. Like, they've got guys that can really burn you. And if you're peaking in the backfield, you're not playing sound, disciplined football. It could be an issue. I'm with Kevin Young in the Toyota chat. He says, if we get turnovers, we have to turn them into touchdowns. You certainly have to make the most of all your opportunities. When you're in the red zone, you got to score points. If you kick a field goal, you got to make it. But yeah, when you have those chances, you got to make the most of them. When you're a 32-point underdog, the reality is you have to play a perfect game if you're going to pull off an upset. But to even be in the game, you got to play dang near perfect. Make the most out of those crucial opportunities. We're going to get into the week 1 picks and power rankings. But real quick, I do want to shout out Coors Light.
Coors Light, baby.
Guys, life can be frustrating, especially in football season. I mean, nobody knows this more than us over the last 20
let's not
years.
Start like that.
Well,
How great
hang
was
on.
it to sip on Coors Lights watching the Rainbow Warriors last week, huh?
Oh, it was great. It was. I mean, the Mountain
Glorious.
West entertained. It was glorious.
New
And
Mexico. I told you guys about New Mexico.
Dre was on Devin Dampier, so I need some hype for my guy Dre. He knows ball. He knows what he's talking
Yes.
about. Dampier with a great showing. Obviously, disappointing results
turned
for
blue for
Nevada
us.
and New Mexico, but the argument is that they weren't even expected to compete. And life is all about the mindset that you choose. And our friends at Coors Light encourage you to choose a chill mindset.
What a
You can be a Debbie
transition.
Downer, or you can be somebody that lives life in the moment, lives life to the fullest, appreciates
Coors Light,
what you
college
got.
Football, the marriage, the perfect marriage.
Love
choosing
and
chill,
marriage.
choosing love. It's the best, man. Make the boast of the times you choose to chill and choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/DNVR.
I also want to shout out Game Time, who is making it easier than ever to buy last minute tickets. They have a great new feature called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. What Game Time Picks is going to do, it's going to filter out all the fluff. It's only going to show you the best of the best, so you can find the best great seats. You don't have to spend time, combing through the thousands and thousands, because they've got a lot of variety, and they're just
Yep.
making it a little bit easier for you. That's what Game Time does. They make life easier for you. They've got
They were amazing to use. I just got 7 tickets for my family and the little one's best friend's family. Incredible tickets. Already had $100 credit on that I applied. What a steal. And it told me, the best sections for 7+. You scrolled a couple, like, no, we don't want to be in the $5 ticket section. I get to see Jackson Holiday and the Orioles. Beautiful. Game Time. Perfect to use. Fantastic.
You heard it, man. Game Time makes it easier than ever to save on sports, concerts, theater, etc. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use that code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem that code DNVR for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
Well done. Well done.
Makes me feel like Remember the Titans. Strong side.
I never loved that. Strong side, left side, though?
Yeah, they're
But you can't be shouting out weak side, which I get. I do get that. But still,
that's one of those
that-
moments that was more for Hollywood than
and Bertier being crippled are the 2 parts of the movie I like the least. Fair?
fair. Fair.
Hell yeah. The dogs, man.
With us, the dogs are barking.
barking. I would howl like a madman, but I can't. That actually will.
I was gonna say that might make things
upset
worse.
the dog.
Let's get into the Mountain West Power
Do it.
Rankings.
Come
We'll go 12 through 1 the way that we always do.
I've waited all summer.
I thought about adjusting some things based on the friskiness of
Yeah, what the
Nevada and
hell,
New
man?
Mexico. That said, I
What
can't
a
with a straight
hater.
face. I don't think that they're actually better than the other 10 teams in front of them. I don't want to get too caught up. I am going to stand pat with what I believe is to be true until
Oh, boy.
we have more of a sample size. But I did tweak some things from what I voted in the preseason ballot, because we've had some coaching changes since then, some player injury news, that type of stuff. So it's not just what I voted in the preseason poll. I do
Always
have
grinding.
Nevada at 12 still, though. What do you? And I'm curious if what you think about that, because they played pretty dang well against SMU. The Texas transfers look good.
They did.
I
They
also feel like it's
showed-
classic vibes, and now the pumpkin turns back into the carriage. Or
Yeah, and
carriage
I mean,
turns back to the pumpkin.
there just are some offensive limitations you're not going to be able to get over.
It's a total rebuild.
Feels like a strongish bottom of the conference, though, if that's the worst you've got to offer.
I'm with you. I mean, I think it was an encouraging showing overall. I felt bad for both of those teams because you had an opportunity there to really pull off a major win. I mean, New Mexico, especially, the way that they blew that one was tough. SMU felt more like the writing was kind of on the wall at the beginning of the fourth quarter. They were still down double digits with 4 minutes left. But New Mexico,
Yeah,
I have
crazy.
at number 11. I think both of these hires were great. I think that Bronco Mendenhall for a program like UNM, that's far exceeding the expectations I would have had from the pool of people I would have expected in that mix. And I think Jeff Cho, you saw a team play with his type of mentality. And I think he will kind of get that thing rolling eventually. But both of those squads, they don't have the horses to run consistently right now.
Quarterbacks for real in New Mexico, man. The quarterbacks for real with our 11th pick, New Mexico there.
And that's why I almost moved them up a couple. I was like, man, maybe I'll put them at like 10, 9, or 8, just because Devin Dampier, I think, can be that dynamic. That naked boot he had was nasty. I haven't seen a QB sell it that well in a while. They'll be frisky. I think both of these teams will win a game in conference play that they shouldn't. And obviously, if you're CSU, you just hope that it's not you.
He was my third best quarterback in the conference, right?
I
When
think
I did those rankings.
He's at
Pretty
worst fourth or fifth.
Telling you.
He's the top third of the league QB. At number 10, we're going San Diego State. I hope they can hang on to him next year. That's going to be the big question for their trajectory is, can you keep a Devin Dampier when a TCU offers them $200K to come over?
Mount West retains some great talent. Offensively,
It was a
especially.
good offseason overall for the
Retained
league.
some
And they
great
added some talent too.
Yes, sir.
I got San Diego State at 10. I think they're going to put up points. I think Sean Lewis has scored everywhere that he's been. I going with the true freshman at QB instead of the Florida State transfer. Duffy was a little bit surprising to me. They went with Danny O'Neal, one-time CU commit. We'll see. Obviously, they bring over Lewis Brown from CSU. I think they're going to be a mess defensively, though. I think they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. I think it's going to be a completely different type of San Diego State that you've seen the last 20 years. Like, we're so used to those 13, 18 type games. And I think for San Diego State this year, it's going to be a lot of like 38, 35s.
Drastic change from what we've seen from them the last few years. So it takes a while to make that kind of
It's hard. We saw with CSU
stylistic
going
switch.
from like a Dazio ground and pound to the air raid. Like it takes a while to flip that type of personnel.
For sure. For sure.
At number 9, we're going San Jose State, who they
God,
bring
they
back
lost so
more
much.
talent than I would have expected given Brent Brennan leaving for Arizona. And they did. They lost a lot of guys, especially on the defensive side. They got Nick Nash at wide receiver. They've got some guys offensively. It sounds like they're going to be closer to like a run and shoot Hawaii style offense.
Is sick.
Kind of what Ken Niumatalolo intends on doing. Pulled it out. Almost had a stroke there halfway through, but I pulled it out.
I love it.
I heard some interesting quotes too. He kind of talks about how like the air raid and the run and shoot in some ways have a lot of similar principles to the option. It's just putting it outside, basically. You're changing them, but it really is like when you
Yes.
think about it that
Yes.
way. It's assignment-based football. It's all about
It's a
trying
beautiful
to
thing.
trying to offset the difference in maybe size or speed if you're playing bigger schools. And I think for a program like San Jose State, it makes sense to keep it open. You've got a lot of high school talent. I don't know what to expect with them. Similar. Like I think with what they lost defensively, that's going to be tough on them. They've got a tough schedule as well. I wouldn't be shocked if they flirted with bowl contention though, and could be like a 5 to 7 win team.
Yeah. I mean, they're always kind of fun and frisky. They're easy to kind of root for on a random Saturday. Like I have a lot more hate for some of these other Mount West teams.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it's kind of like good for San Jose State.
Yeah, I'm not a believer in the quarterback situation, though it terrifies me.
And that's the toughest part is they had a significantly better quarterback than they're normally going to have in Chevin Cordero these last couple years, and that's a major drop off. They did bring in some transfers. We'll see. At 8, we are going Utah State, maybe the biggest wild card in the league because they've
Let's
got
talk
good
about
talent.
them compared to Hawaii at 7, so you could put Hawaii up.
Okay, yeah.
Because I was surprised by this. Utah State's had a nice track record. I'm intrigued by some of the quarterback transfers they have.
I'm not a Spencer Petras guy. You can't talk me into that.
Oh, I mean, what about Barnes, the Utah transfer then?
They're the island of misfit toys. They brought in a bunch of quarterbacks nobody else wanted.
Yeah, but that scheme.
Get
it out quick.
And we've seen that. We've seen guys go from, completely different systems and all of a sudden it clicks. And that could happen with Petros. He's got the arm talent. Jalen Royals is nice. They did lose Micah Wells, I believe his name is, to Ole Miss. They
know they're going
returned
through
some
a lot
talent.
this
To
offseason.
me, it's just I have a hard time seeing that not make an impact between Blake Anderson suing the school and the distraction, because it's going to be ongoing.
Legend.
It's not like it was something that happened and then it just goes away. Like, this will be a cloud that lingers over the whole season. If they have a rough start, like let's say if they came out of the gate and were like 1-2, 1-3, and now all of a sudden you have to worry about, like, well, is Ike Larson just going to sit out and transfer somewhere else? Like, you could have what happened with CSU in 2022.
Yeah.
I just think they're like sitting next to an ice cliff, and there's a possibility that they just completely fall off, and it's also possible they shimmy away from it. But I don't feel comfortable.
I mean, it's a lot of belief in Hawaii.
Hawaii has maybe, outside of CSU, the best receiving core in the conference. They've got obviously Shager coming back at quarterback was huge. He took a official visit to BYU, decided to come back in the end, which is smart decision, by the
That's
way,
how
because
it's done.
BYU is going to be a train wreck.
That's how it's done.
But I believe in Timmy Chang. They've got 7 true upsets in his first 2 years. They won 3 out of their final 4. Obviously, they prevented CSU from making a bowl. I still have questions defensively. You know, can you be a little bit more consistent there? But their schedule's not as brutal either this year. So I'm in on Hawaii. The one thing that will be interesting for them is they have 2 FCS games on their schedule. They already beat Delaware State. So they're going to have to win 6 FBS games out of 10. They got to win 6 out of their 10 FBS games to be bowl eligible, because you can't have 2 FCS games count towards bowl eligibility. So little wrinkle in there.
Yeah, I remain skeptical.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. No, I mean, but I'm always excited to tune in when someone's on the island late night on
The
a
community's bought in. I mean, they got the vibes right again. It was a disaster there for a couple of years under Graham, just from a community support standpoint. They've got a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball. Could be a San Diego State situation. You know, maybe they don't stop anyone, but they've got some corners that are nice. They have added some transfers with some FBS experience. But yeah, that's where I'm at on Hawaii. Again, another wild card, a team that I think if you looked up and they were second in the league, it wouldn't shock you. I also don't think it would be shocking if the bottom fell out finally. Air Force, I have at number 6.
Yeah.
Every part of this makes me uncomfortable because I respect Troy Calhoun as much as any coach in America. They also just inherently seem to reset and reload in a way that other programs can't. At some point, losing this many guys on both sides of the ball, really like all conference caliber type players, all conference backs. They've had a really good defensive line. Some of these guys are being in the NFL now. They do bring back Peyton Zdroik on the defensive interior. He's a stud. Outside of that, though, they're really unproven. And the thing about Air Force is they either reload and they're like a 9-10 win team, or they don't and they're like a 4-win team. And when you look at the history of Calhoun, that's kind of how it's been.
When's the last 4-win season?
They're due. It's been a while.
Yeah.
It was like 2016.
It's been a while. I trust him probably more than Wyoming, who you have at 5. I also think I can make a case for Utah State above every team that's 7-6-5. I think you could also make a Hawaii argument for every team that's
I think the
7-6-5.
The parity in the Mountain West right now is tremendous. I mean, when you especially when
wide
the
open.
top 8 teams, I think, are all
wide
capable
open.
of beating each other on
Yep.
any given day, and that's what could potentially be, unfortunately, like the double-edged sword. Like, it could keep the Mountain West out of the playoffs because you don't have a team that's able to win like 10, 11 games the way you maybe can in the Sun Belt or the American, something like that, Liberty, something like that. But I think it's going to be highly competitive football. It's going to be really fun. I have Wyoming at 5 over Air Force, largely because of the amount of talent they return on the defensive side. They've got 4 or 5 returning offensive linemen as well.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I think there's a lot of changes going on. I think that offense has just been such a struggle. And I don't see that getting better.
All the Wyoming guys claim that Svoboda is the second coming of Josh Allen and
Yeah,
big
no.
dude, and maybe that's the case. Losing Harrison Whaley for these first couple games, that's a tough break. That makes what would have been a very winnable game against Arizona State, maybe more of a coin flip now. We'll see with Wyoming. I could very much see Craig Bowl leaving and the program kind of bottoms out. I could also see having more of a players coach, having a little bit more energy with an experienced team is something that could be a positive change if only for a short period even. But that's where I'm at. I've got CSU at number 4. Am I too high on the Rams coming in? Am I too low on the Rams coming in?
I'd be more on the low side, but I think 4 is about fair. I do think they are in this tier of the top 4, which I think is a separate tier from the 5 through 8 and the 9 through 12.
I'd agree with that. It feels very similar to like how we framed basketball last year, where it was, you kind of had that top 2 or 3, and then there's that next group, and then there's the next group, and they're all capable of beating each other. But week to week, I think the top end talent CSU has is on par with anybody in the league, if not superior. You've
No
got
doubt about it.
continuity within your staff.
At least on paper, which is what we're going off of in the preseason.
Important distinction. A lot of this is,
These are preseason predictions.
and ceiling, ceiling wise, I think they could be conference champions. I really do think they could, if they make it, anything's possible.
Without a doubt.
Number 3, we're going to UNLV. Losing Maeva is a big loss, but they bring enough back defensively, bringing Ricky White back at receiver, solid O-line. I still think they're going to be solid. I do think we see them take a step back, though.
Yeah.
But I did put them over CSU, largely because the teams are very similar to what they were last year. UNLV pulled out the win, so I gave them the nod.
Yeah, their preseason rankings. There's definitely some respect in here that I think is justified.
I believe in one of the things I like about UNLV is Barry Odom has that they tackle. They're not going to lose that way. And for so long, they were just a soft program. So I like the identity that he's brought into that locker room.
Big football guy values tackling a lot.
Number 2, Fresno State, who Dre is fading this year. So I know he already is going to tell me they're too high.
2 years in a row now.
Mikey Keene, you got one of the better quarterbacks back.
Yep.
Jalen Rashad or Malik Rashad, at running back is really solid. Kind of unproven at the skill positions, but they've added some guys via the transfer portal that could be really good. I think the biggest thing is losing Tedford, honestly.
For sure. Which kind of a big deal.
It's a huge deal. I don't know how I don't know how much to factor into it, because I think to an extent they have such a veteran presence that I think for 1 year they could probably be okay. I think you feel it more in that second year than this year.
Right, we've talked about that. I do think the defense was kind of on a upward 2-year trend and is going to have to fall back down. Yeah. And so lots riding on Mikey Keene, and I think that ceiling is, you'll hit that ceiling a little sooner than with most. But that said, so many questions with all these other programs. I do think Fresno's pretty firmly at least in the top 4, and I can't argue them being ahead of UNLV. They certainly are. Yeah. And the track record the last several years, without sounding like too big a homers, I think it's legit to put them ahead of the Rams.
Knock on wood, potential that game in Fresno, second to last game of the season, could have some pretty big implications. Maybe I'll even be there. We'll see what happens with these two teams. Boise State, number 1 in my preseason power rankings. I'll be honest, Maddox Madsen beating out Malachi Nelson, very odd to me, just from what we've seen. He's now beaten out Taylon Green and Malachi, so maybe there's just something I'm not seeing when I watch him on the field, but I just physically, there's about 6-7 quarterbacks in the Mountain West I would take over him.
For sure.
Boise, I think defensively they're going to be solid. They're obviously Ashton Genty's a stud, and they've got a good O-line.
I think it also tells you the choice is to go with a more low ceiling quarterback who's going to commit fewer mistakes, so they can lean into their identity of running the ball, playing defense. And so they might not be as sexy as they would be with Nelson starting at quarterback, but that floor is really, really high. And we shall see. I'll be rooting against them, that's for sure.
Before we get out of here, we're going to kind of rapid fire through these week 1 picks. We don't have to go too in depth. There's a lot of really big spreads anyways, but we do have a fun game tonight.
We just had a power surge. Turning the board back on.
Are we live?
Yeah. It reset everything, but we are live. Give me like 30 seconds. Okay. Audio's back. You're good.
All right, sorry about that, guys. We had a power surge, took out the audio temporarily. You got to just look at our pretty faces for a second. San Jose State, 3.5-point favorites tonight against Sac State. Where are you going?
I've seen that move to 2. I can't believe the Sac State love. Give me Sac State on the road.
They kicked CSU's ass a couple of years ago. I'll take Sac State well.
Todd Davis's alma mater. They don't
One of
play
the
around.
prides of the Big Sky.
Damn straight. And that's a Thursday nighter.
Thursday nighter. We got that one tonight, so you can watch that after the Buffs North Dakota State game. Air Force hosting Merrimack, 30.5-point favorites. The book that I found it at. That's a lot of points. That said, you're playing Merrimack. I couldn't tell you where Merrimack is. Air Force better cover that.
Yeah, hard to even find this line. Give me the Falcons.
We're just going in chronological order. CSU at number 4, Texas, 32 points. It opened at 36.5, so some movement in CSU's favor.
Yeah.
I like the Rams to cover the 32.
Yeah, veteran QB, I think the cover's on. I think they need to be frisky for a couple quarters, and Texas is looking ahead.
I'm with you. Boise State, 13-point favorites on the road at a deceptively tricky Georgia Southern matchup. I hate this spread.
Yeah.
I would not actually put money on it, but we take all the games. Give me Georgia Southern to cover the 13.
Oh, Georgia Southern, real ones, no. But I think Boise takes care of business.
They can run the ball, which I could see where, like, even if it was 7-10-point game for most of it, you run it down their throat at the end, cover late.
Yeah.
I could also see Boise just kicking their ass if GNT is what he could be. UNLV at Houston, winnable game in Big 12 territory. Houston, 2.5-point favorites. Probably, if not the worst team in the Big 12, one of the worst teams.
Yeah. I mean, and one of these teams going through a lot of transition. I don't know what a UNLV to expect either. And it's at Houston. I kind of think Houston's the sucker side, but that's where I'm going.
Giving UNLV money lines straight up. They win that one on the road. Nevada
Plus 120.
at Troy, 9-point dogs. I feel like this is classic getting too caught up in what we saw against SMU. This should be a little bit bigger of a spread. Give me Troy to cover the 9.
You're a big Troy believer, huh? I think this is a spot where Nevada can shorten the game, keep it close. But, yeah, I mean, we're right in that range. Well set line.
Michigan is 20.5-point favorites at home against Fresno State. Giving Fresno State some love comparatively. A lot of Michigan spreads in these types of games the last couple of years have been 30+. Obviously, some question marks about what Michigan will be. I expect a fired up Michigan to come out hungry, angry, trying to make a statement. Give me Michigan to cover the 20.5. I do think they win by 3 touchdowns.
Mikey Keene and the boys keep it close enough. I think they cover by
just
a
barely.
smidge.
I could
Yes.
see that. It's a perfect
19-point
line.
game. Yeah.
UCLA, 14-point favorites on the road at Hawaii. Here is my bold one. Hawaii money line, straight up. The Warriors pull the upset against UCLA. Boom, boom, boom.
On the island they cover. I do not believe in UCLA and this Deshaun Foster era, but I hate it. I hate it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think Kawhi's going to cover, obviously, because I'm taking them straight up. But
clearly.
San Diego State, 33.5-point favorites against Texas A&M Commerce.
Eek.
I hate that spread.
Hammer the over? I don't know, man.
Yeah, just stay away from this game. This is the reality.
But I guess I'll take San Diego State. The book is daring you to take Texas A&M Commerce. So, yeah.
I want to take A&M Commerce. I'll say they can hang within 33.5.
Oh, my gosh.
Delaware State covered last week, and the book was daring us to take them, too.
They did.
Robert Morris, 31-point dogs at Utah State. Give me Utah State.
Yeah, same.
We've got New Mexico on the road at number 21 Arizona, also 31-point dogs.
Nope. They stay frisky.
I'm with you. New Mexico covers 31.
Yep, 100%.
They should be able to run the ball enough, limit the possessions, keep that game around. Even if you lost big, you should still be able to hang within 31.
Wyoming at Arizona State.
Wyoming at Arizona State. Arizona State 7-point favorites. No Harrison Whaley for the Pokes, which is tough.
Now that actually might be the worst team in the Big 12.
Yeah, that's a good point. Give me Wyoming straight up.
Yeah, that's the vibe. Even though I don't believe in Wyoming. But that's the vibe. ASU doesn't deserve to be a touchdown favorite against just about anyone.
I'm with you. I mean, Scattaboo, I like him. He's a nice back, but like outside of him, plus Wyoming with just what they return defensively in that O-line, like they're just going to be a pain in the ass for everyone. Like every game's going to be 20 to 13-ish unless
We shall see.
it really is Svoboda or
We gotta
the
start
Allen
tracking these.
2.0. Yeah, we will. We'll definitely keep track of these. Shout out to everybody in the Toyota chat. Much love to all of you in Ram Nation. Again, we will have a watch party live on Saturday. I'd love to see you at the DNVR bar. Our friends at Coors Light giving away a Yeti cooler.
Yeah.
Football is here. It's back.
College football all day, baby.
I'm going live tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'll also go live post-game Saturday sometime around 5:30-ish, roughly, depending on when that game ends. Shout out to all of you. Shout out to Kale behind the sticks, making all of this work. Always proud to be y'all. Much love. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.